This will be a demonstration of how the Quickdraw Weaving programs handle floating selvage. In this particular case, let me start out and create a little bit of a pattern to work with. Get myself some warp. Get myself some weft. Okay, so I've got a clean little pattern. Looking at the two edges, it really could use a floating selvage. So when I go to the project setup screen, the floating selvage box is new. When I look at it, it will give me the mouse overs at the bottom, telling me that it really is suggested because it's found the need. So if I ask for a floating selvage, now that labels the logic that allows me to add a floating selvage, but it doesn't necessarily add it where I want it. So let me add one. If I click at the end, I'm going to click on the line. Let me scroll in a lot. You'll notice the normal thread is shown in a square box. The floating selvage is shown with the FS in a circle. Go back to warp, and I'm going to want to insert, because what I want to do is insert a thread over here on the right-hand end. Okay, so I've added a floating selvage there. So it's noted the floating selvage is just below the main lines. So that's told me if I do want to add two, I can add another one there. So I can add however many floating selvages I want. Now I can also control those. For example, if I want these two floating selvages, I want those to be in a white thread. It'll switch to the white or black. I can also control thread sizes. I can make them bigger or smaller. So I can control those threads, any of the floating selvages, the same way I would any other thread. They will be included in the thread counts, though obviously not in the heddle counts. Now the other places that would show up, if I view the threading or thread length sequence, and it gives me the old school cartoon. If I look at that, it's going to show the floating selvages just as it did earlier. And if I go to the print preview, it's also going to show me those floating selvages there. If I close that, if I go to loom help and ask for warp, the first two threads are floating selvages. The message is going to tell me it's floating. I'm going to get an audio beep, and it's going to show as shaft zeros. So there's the next shaft zero. The next one would be the floating selvage one, where it goes back into a voice interface. Now let me go back to the view again for a second. Scroll back out a little bit here. And if, for example, now it's recognized, on the floating selvage, that it's enabled and it's in use. If I turn it off again, it's going to be the warning. Now if I go back, it's going to have left those guys as empty threads, which is a logical way you might originally have shown the floating selvage. So now let me go back in, and when I turn it on, when I ask for the floating selvage, and I go back and look, it's now recognized that there was an open thread at the beginning with the intent. You probably wanted that there as a floating selvage because it found the one at the beginning, yet found the one that added the one at the end also, since most software will not recognize a zero shaft at the end. And it didn't know for sure in the second one whether it was a blank, so it left that blank. You can fill those in. And that is how much control you have on floating selvages and how you can document their presence in the pattern. Thank you.